What if hole cards were in Hearthstone? You'll see what I mean with Trap Hole, a normal trap card with the effect when your opponent normal or flip summons one monster with 1000 or more attack, target that monster, destroy that target. Flip summoning being when you turn a face down monster face up, either by battle or by swapping battle positions. If this card were in Hearthstone, it would become a 2-cost Hunter spell secret with the effect after your opponent plays a minion with 2 or less attack, destroy it. Trap Hole becomes a secret as they are both card types that can be activated on your opponent's turn to interrupt their plays, with the only major difference being that secrets can only be activated on your opponent's turn or at the start of your own turn, while trap cards can be activated during either player's turn, so long as it was set on the field for one turn. I changed the activation requirements to 2 attack or lower, instead of 2 attack or higher, since it would be way too strong of a removal effect. As common ways to remove minions as they come into play are instant damage effects, since there is still a chance for the minion to survive. It becomes a Hunter secret, as secrets are a spell type assigned to 4 of the 10 classes in Hearthstone, as, if you don't know, Hearthstone uses a class system to limit what cards you can use in your deck. The 4 classes being Paladin, Rogue, Hunter, and Mage, with cost varying depending on the class. Paladin secrets are the cheapest at 1 mana, with weaker effects or harsher activation requirements, to Mage secrets priced at 3 mana for the most powerful effects. Hunter and Rogue secrets sit in the middle at 2 mana, being effective for their cost. As it stands now, Trap Hole would become a 2-cost secret, since its activation requirements are relatively easy to pull off, meaning it's a split decision between Hunter or Rogue. While this card could be a Rogue secret, interfering with your opponent's cards as they come into play is more prevalent in Hunter secrets. Next card up is Darkhole, a normal spell card with the effect destroy all monsters on the field. If this card were in Hearthstone, it would become a 7-cost Warlock Shadow spell with the simple effect destroy all minions. It becomes a Warlock spell as the ability to destroy all minions outright is commonly associated to this class. It's a shadow spell since this card is just a black hole, and it costs 7 mana, seeing as it's a downgraded version of the card Twisting Nether with the exact same effect for 8 mana. However, it's been buffed to also destroy locations, cards with activated effects with a 2-turn cooldown that stay on the field until you use up all its durability. Next card up is Giant Trap Hole, a normal trap card with the effect when 2 or more monsters are special summoned at the same time, destroy all monsters on the field. Converting this card into Hearthstone, it may become a 3-cost Mage secret with the effect after your opponent plays 3 minions, destroy all minions. It becomes a Mage secret as it's an extremely powerful effect, even if playing 3 minions in a single turn isn't that common, with main ways to flood the field being spells that generate tokens or a single minion generating multiple other threats. And let's not forget, it also hits all of your minions too. However, in a secrets deck, that probably won't be too much of an issue. It only activates after 3 minions are played, since it only activates when your opponent special summons 2 or more monsters, which becomes 3 summons in total if you include 1 normal summon each turn. The next card to be converted is Goblin Pothole Squad, a level 4 Earth Attribute Warrior, with the effect when this card is normal summoned, trap cards cannot be activated. Also, Trap Hole trap cards cannot be activated when a monster is summoned, except Dark Trap Hole. The reason why this card excludes Dark Trap Hole is because Yugioh is owned by Konami, a Japanese company, and because of that, card text must be localized. However, you get into a lot of misnomers when you have cards with effect text that is so specific with words down to the apostrophes, and because of this, Darkhole had its name changed to Darkfall, as it was not meant to be part of the Trap-Hole series. If I converted this card, I would make it a 2-cost wild typeless minion with 3 attack and 1 health, and the effect, secrets cannot be revealed on your turn. I changed the protection effect to prevent all secrets from activating on your turn instead of just whole cards, since that sort of protection is too specific to be usable, as Hearthstone more broadly targets a card's type, cost, or how it was obtained. It has 3 attack and 1 health, as I would consider every 500 stat points in Yu-Gi-Oh! To be equivalent to 1 stat point in Hearthstone. It costs 2 mana, as its stats are way too low for a 4-cost minion. It has no type, as some cards in Hearthstone are too vague to be labeled under a certain type, so they aren't. Next card up is Adhesion Trap-Hole, a normal trap card with the effect, when your opponent summons a monsters, have that monster's original attack. If this card were in Hearthstone, it would become a 1-cost Paladin secret, with the effect, after your opponent plays a minion, have all enemy minions attack, rounded down, but not less than 1. I made the effect target all your opponent's minions to mimic the optional effect to target multiple cards at once, since the ways of mass summoning in Hearthstone wouldn't activate this card. It has the limitation to not reduce a minion's attack to less than 1, since 0 attack minions are hard to remove on your own board, since you can't crash them into your opponent's minions, meaning you can soft lock your opponent out of the game if they had a board full of 1 attack minions. It becomes a Paladin secret since its effect is very weak, as even if you reduced your opponent's minions to 1 attack, it doesn't change the board state, since you still have to deal with those minions. Might as well call this a retrain, with Banishing Trap-Hole, a normal trap card, with the effect, when your opponent summons a monsters with 1500 or less attack, banish that monsters with 1500 or less attack face down. Banishing meaning removing the card from play, and banished face down meaning that the card cannot activate its effects while it's being banished. If this card were in Hearthstone, it would become a 3-cost Mage secret, with the effect, when your opponent plays a 3 or lower cost minion, counter it. It becomes a Mage secret, as there is this card called Objection! With the same effect, but it can counter any minion, even though this card is strictly worse than Objection! The limitation on what minions it can counter is actually better for the game as a whole, since Objection! Is one of the most hated cards in Hearthstone, as you don't just lose the effect of the card you're trying to play, but the minion's board presence as well. Limiting the card like this prevents you from sniping anything too big, but countering any minion with 3 attack or less is still more than enough. Next card up is Darkhole Dragon, a level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon with 3000 attack and 2000 defense, and the effect cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Darkhole Dragon once per turn. If a monster's on the field is destroyed by a card effect that does not target it, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from the graveyard if it was there when a monster was destroyed or hand. Even if not, if this card is special summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase of this turn. Add 1 Darkhole from your deck to your hand. If I converted this card into Hearthstone, it would become an 8-cost legendary Warlock Elemental Dragon with 8 attack and 4 health, with the effect Elusive, meaning that this card cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers, and Death Rattle, Add a Darkhole to your hand. Go dormant. Revive after your opponent casts a 4 or higher cost spell. Going dormant meaning that this card cannot be interacted with until its activation requirements are met. This card becomes a Warlock card as it adds Darkhole to your hand, which we've already made into a Warlock spell, though it adds Darkhole when destroyed, since your opponent is definitely not letting this card stay on the field. Even if they did have to play a 4 or higher cost spell, they'll probably crash it with their other minions. While not being able to target this card with spells or hero powers isn't the same as immunity to card destruction effects, it will at least gain protection from cheap removal options, as it's either this or full immunity to everything on your opponent's turn. Darkhole Dragon becomes a legendary card, as its death rattle of going dormant and then reviving itself is something only legendary cards do, and while it comes back to the field after your opponent plays a 4 or higher cost spell, and not from a non-targeting destruction effect. Most ways of mass non-targeting destruction comes from spells that cost 4 or more. It still costs 8 mana, as it's coming down so late that the constant revival isn't too much, since it has such low health. It wouldn't interrupt your opponent as much as you would think. Even then, it still relies on your opponent to do an action, something they can play around if necessary. Darkhole Dragon adds a Darkhole to your hand rather than from the deck, since it's more common to add cards to your hand than to draw very specifically named cards from your deck, as it's more common in Hearthstone to add cards to your hand than drawing a very specifically named card from the deck. The next card to be converted is Dimensional Hole, a normal spell card with the effect select one monster on your side of the field and remove it from play until your next standby phase. While the monster is removed from play, the monster zone of the selected card cannot be used. If I convert this card into Hearthstone, it would become a 0 cost Demon Hunter spell with the effect make a friendly minion go dormant for 1 turn. When it awakens, give it Rush. Rush allowing the minion to attack another minion the turn they are summoned. Dimensional Hole makes the minion go dormant, as it's essentially the same as removing a minion from play until your next standby phase, i.e. at the start of your next turn. It also gives the minion Rush, since dormant minions can't attack the turn they awaken. This is why many of the minions that go dormant have the keyword Rush to make up for this fact. It becomes a Demon Hunter card, as it's the class that consistently gets cards that have the keyword, while also benefiting from the fact that their minions can go dormant again, since going dormant is generally a detriment since you can't use the card whilst dormant, so having it go dormant again after awakening is counterproductive. It costs 0 mana to play, since you're generally not gaining any benefits from making one of your minions go dormant for a turn. The next card to be converted is Trap Hole of Spikes, a normal trap card, with the effect when an opponent's monster that was normal summoned or special summoned this turn declares an attack, destroy that attacking monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of the original attack of that monster. If this card were to be converted into Hearthstone, it would become a 3-cost Mage Secret, with the effect after an enemy minion attacks your hero, destroy it, and deal damage equal to its attack to the enemy hero. Even though the secret does a lot, it's still within the acceptable range. As the Paladin secret, Eye for an Eye deals damage after the first time you take damage, and the Mage secret, Vaporize, destroying the first minion that attacks you. It becomes a Mage card since this is just an upgraded version of Vaporize. The reason why this card destroys a minion after it attacks you is to balance the fact that it also damages your opponent for the same amount of damage you just took, which in some cases may be a lot. The last card we will be converting is Floodgate Trap Hole, a normal trap card with the effect when your opponent summons a monster, change that monster to face down defense position. monsters change the face-down defense position. By this effect, cannot change their battle positions. If this card were in Hearthstone, it would become a 2-cost Nature Rogue Secret, with the effect when an enemy minion attacks, it goes dormant for 2 turns. I change the effect to make the next attacking minion go dormant, as permanently changing a monster to face-down defense position is essentially preventing that monster from attacking or activating their effects, as face-down monsters can't activate their effects or attack, so I made it go dormant, as it's essentially the same, though it only goes dormant for 2 turns, as permanently having a dormant card on your side of the field severely caps your board space, while in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's more of an inconvenience, since you can still use that monster as material for extra deck plays. It becomes a nature spell, as is just a massive hole with water. If there's anything I should have changed, or any ideas on cards I should convert next, please let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, you should check out this one, where I converted equip cards into Hearthstone.
Oh, for heaven. You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal.